accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency as enacted to read Section G1 MRSA subsection 403A, public proceedings through remote access during declaration of state of emergency due to COVID-19. This business meeting is being held through Zoom and will be recorded and posted on the Maranacook.org, YouTube channel. Due to the change in the format of the board of directors meeting, please be aware that during the course of this meeting, the microphones of the viewing audience will be muted, except during the identified portions of public comments at this meeting. For today's agenda, this is number 2 and number 7C. There is a chat box feature in Zoom, but we will not be utilizing this function for the meeting. If you have questions or comments that fall outside of the appropriate public participation times, please call the central office, or you can email the superintendent, myself, or any board members, and an answer will be provided as soon as possible. We ask for the public's patience during these highly unusual circumstances, and any feedback we receive will be used to adjust future meetings as we conduct the business of the board of directors and meet the needs of the general public. Thank you very much. So attendance and all votes, will be done through roll call. When your name is called, please cast your vote with the 3 available options of yes, which is approve, no is disapprove, or abstain. So board members, as we do our roll call, please say here to ensure that your audio is turned up to confirm that people can hear you and you can hear others. So the first thing I'm going to do is that roll call vote, and roll call attendance, and Kimbo, you're the first one up.
And I am here.
Wendy Brotherland.
Here.
Kathy Jacobs.
Here.
Melissa Tobin.
Here.
Alex Wright.
Here.
Patty Gordon.
Here.
Rebecca Lambert.
Here.
Betty Morale.
Here.
Sean Roderick. I do not see him. Gary Carr.
Here.
And David Twitchell. And no David.
Sean just arrived.
Oh, is he in already? I don't see him. Sean Roderick, are you here? Oh, I think we lost him again. We'll check on him again as we progress through the meeting here.
I see him.
Yeah. Sean, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Looks like your mic is muted, Sean. He's working on it, I can tell.
Oh, I stopped the video. How come I can't mute?
We can hear you now.
Oh, now we can hear you, Sean.
Well, let me mute audio.
We're going to be patient for a minute and let him work it out so he can be part of the meeting.
Gotta get the kids to help out.
Yep. Is he still here? Does anybody know? Oh, he's coming back. Sean, can you hear me now? It looks like you're still muted. All right, we'll check in him. I'll check in with him in a couple minutes. We'll let him see if he can get himself on, and we'll check in a few minutes. Sean, if you can hear me, your mic is still muted. So when you can get unmuted, please give us a shout out so that we know that you can hear us and we can hear you. And having said that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Carr, and that brings us up to number 2, citizens' comments.
I'm asking for any citizens' comments.
Yes, this is John Harker, if you can hear me.
Yep, yes, we can, John.
Yep, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk. I just wanted to, I have a question, a statement, and I wanted to thank you, Jay, and the administration, the teachers. I have been following what the teachers have been doing, and they've been working very hard, it looks like, under these conditions. So I want to thank you. I also want to thank you ahead for, I've looked at the budget stuff. It looks like you're trying to do a really good job to help us keep the budgets down, and I know you're going to deal with that later. So I wanted to thank you on that. I had a question about the budget process. I just wanted to know whether if the budget is passed as it is given, is there a process if we get in 6 months or 4 or 6 months into the new year that we see that there are some problems? Is there a process that can be used to bring the budget up again to be reconsidered? That's one question. If you don't want to.
Ask Jay.
Yep, I was just waiting to make sure it was okay to answer the question.
Yep, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, then I'll have another question.
So there, and Bridget, you can weigh in on this also because you've got certainly lots of experience. I believe there is a process, but it is used very infrequently to the best of my knowledge. Would that be correct, Bridget?
Well, we've never had a budget reconsideration that I can remember. Basically what would happen is if something came up and we thought the budget was in trouble, the first thing we'd probably do is go into a budget freeze and wouldn't allow any unnecessary purchases to be made. And we'd have, you know, it would be up to the superintendent to decide when that would happen and whether or not any additional steps would be taken over and above a budget freeze. But we've never gone for a budget reconsideration in the 30 years I've been here.
Thank you, Bridget.
But there is a process, Bridget, that can be used.
I'd have to check with our attorneys on that. I'm not even sure what the process would be. I know there's been times when there was if you know, say if the boiler blew up and you needed to raise more money, I think you could go and do that. But I don't know what else. I'd have to check with the attorneys on that, John.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You would most likely have to, if you raise it, you would have to have a budget vote.
Right.
With all the towns.
Right. Yeah, you would have to go through the whole process again, but we've never done that since I've been here.
So John, we will do a little bit of research and we will find out a more firm answer, I guess, for you after we do a little bit of research, and we will get back to you.
Thank you, Jay, on that. The second question I have is, in this period of time, we're going through, and the teachers are doing a lot of research on new curriculums, other things they can use online to help work with the kids. There are a number of curriculums out there that are already online for homeschoolers and others. The question I have is there going to be a process, and the board has to approve these curriculums, I'm assuming, down the road. So is there going to be, or do you foresee any issue going forward that you may want to do some more curriculum development and come to the board with new curriculums? And I'm hoping the answer will be yes, but be curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Dr. Carr, are you okay if I answer
Yeah,
that?
go
Okay.
ahead.
So the short answer is absolutely yes, John. We do have a lot of work to do, and what the fall looks like is still very much up in the air and uncertain. So we are going to have to move forward. looking at some kind of alternatives and anything that becomes kind of a new curriculum or a direction that we would move would go through the board's curriculum committee before final decisions are made. We may pilot stuff and give things a try, but it would definitely have to go through the curriculum committee as part of the work that we do as we move forward. And we have already started those discussions, but obviously it'll take a little time to work through all of that. And some of it depends on what the fall is going to look like going forward. So that's kind of a short, vague answer, but the answer is yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the last thing I'll mention, and again, I'll mention this again, I mentioned it last meeting, is, and I know you did want to take it up last time, I'm just going to give it one more shot. I would really hope that you could put some extra money in the budget this year to keep the teachers on, or at least maybe a select group of teachers on salary this summer to work on those new curriculums and new ideas going forward, because I do believe this is going to be the new normal going down the road. I've been watching other school systems throughout the US and what they're trying to do, and the latest thing that just came out with, forget his name now, the Microsoft gentleman, where they're talking about, you know, establishing a whole new educational curriculum nationwide online. So going down I would love to see some extra money in the budget for teachers to stay on salary this coming summer. And with that, thank you very much for giving me the time tonight.
I think that has to do with Bill Gates.
There you go. Thank you. I'd forgotten his name. Okay, thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? I hear none. We'll move on. Additions to the agenda tonight. Anybody have any additions?
I don't have any, just so you know.
So we're going to go on to reports. And so we have a whole bunch of staff reports.
Yeah.
And
So what I would ask for the report section is that obviously the reports are included in your board packets, but I would ask if you have any questions, you can send them to me. And then if the appropriate administrator is here and prepared to answer, I'll kind of shuffle it over to them. I did ask when they wrote their reports, I did ask them to focus on what the work they were doing with remote learning, just so that you guys could kind of have a flavor for what's going on in the work that's been, that we've been doing. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll kind of redirect, I'll answer them and or redirect them as appropriate for the board reports.
Gary,
So
can I just say something? Gary,
Go ahead.
can you hear me? It's
I
Kathy.
hear you.
I don't have a question. I don't have a question. I just want to say that all the work that was included in these reports is so impressive, and it's just so much work that teachers have put into making this success. And I just want to show my appreciation by saying thank you for all the great work that they've been doing in this very challenging time.
So I have a question concerning Dojo and Seesaw. Is that a program that we had to buy, or is that?
Yes,
free?
yeah, those are for purchase programs, and various classrooms are using them in the K-5 level, but it's one of those things where there was really no agreement. So that's one of the things that we're talking about is if they're using these, we're going to get feedback so we can see what direction we want to go with these. But they're good platforms for elementary schools, students and teachers to be able to kind of communicate with each other, and they're closed. You have to have a special account for them. So.
And I noticed Brightspace. Is that also a paid one that we have to buy?
Yes. Right,
So-
and Brightspace, and I may be off, I apologize if I am, Brightspace may be one of those that we have a free trial on. Companies are providing free like 3-month subscriptions to end the school year and such. And there are a couple we have taken advantage of as far as free goes, and we'll have to decide later if we actually want to purchase them. But based on whoever's using them, they'll give us feedback and we'll work through.
So we'll have that before the end of the budget?
Say that again, Gary, I'm sorry.
So are we going to have that information before the budget's finished?
The information from the teachers, they're using it. Yeah, we'll
We need to have some direction if they really want it or not, so it's in the budget properly.
right. Yes, yeah. We will have to make some decisions with the money that we have, and we may shift gears from one to the other based on feedback we get.
So he makes a comment that Brightspace requires per pupil subscription service.
Yep.
This is extremely expensive for a small adult education program like Marana. So is that if they don't come back to school, or is that even if they do come back to school? I couldn't figure out if he intends to open up in September or not open up in September.
So I'm going to tell you, I don't know the answer to that. Whose report was that, Gary, if you don't mind me asking?
Lost, I believe.
Who?
Most?
Oh,
No.
Steve Bose, okay. So I will check in with Steve and I will get an answer for you on that, Gary. And I'll get it to you as quick as I can tomorrow, but I'll have to talk to Steve individually about that. And he's not with us tonight.
Does Ryan have any problems in this area? Because I thought Ryan might have problems with special needs of IEP that we
Ryan,
need to address.
Ryan, are you okay addressing that?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, in terms of, besides the general issues that a lot of people are dealing with not being able to have face-to-face interactions with students, that sometimes is certainly amplified when many of the students with IEPs or in need of special education services really require that direct support and contact. That's certainly been a challenge, but we're certainly trying to meet the individual learners and in particular families where they're at. So the staff are working really hard to have the level of contact that they can remotely with students, but certainly presents a challenge because they're not able to get the same level of support. But I think that's certainly true for students across the district. But yeah, there are definitely unique learning situations that we're having to deal with, and the team's working really hard to be able to do that.
So Ryan, if you could just keep that in mind so that we get, if you need something for your group, the IEP, we need to know about it real soon. If
Yeah,
this
no, I
carries
certainly
up.
appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to leave them out in the field. It also makes a note under Nancy Herring, Dr. Herring, that we need iPads. Is that going to be a problem, Jay, or not?
No, we've got the state supplying us with some technology that we filled out a survey, sent it to the state, and they're supplying us with some hotspots and some devices. They're not necessarily iPads, however. So we're doing our best with what we've got. And then as we get the state devices, we'll figure out how to incorporate them in. But the state is stepping up to help out with that for sure.
And you won't believe it, but I did receive one phone call that said on page 21 of 51 that the student is doing better remote learning compared to in the class. And I can't figure that one out. Why that would be true, because I was always the other way around.
Those are good situations to try to figure out. I love hearing
Right,
that.
I mean, I got that phone call and I said, and she's excelling. I said, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, because she gets to think a minute before answering. That was the parents' comment.
Nice.
So let's move on then. Any other people that might have questions for Jay? I hear none. Policy, first read, Jay.
Yep. Just so very quickly, just want to confirm, Sean Roderick, you are here. I think you can hear us, but I don't think we can hear you, right? Put your thumb up if that's what the case is.
I'm here. I'm all good. Sorry.
There we go. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'm all.
Thank you, Sean. Policy GBEBB, staff conduct with students. It's a first reading. I just want to let everyone know, and I don't know if I'm overstepping the people that were able to attend the policy committee. We had several teachers that showed up and helped us kind of craft that language. From my point of view, it was a very good meeting because we were able to talk through several issues on that policy. So what you see in front of you is very much a collaborative piece of work between the board policy members and several teachers from the association that we crafted the language with. So I really encourage you to read it carefully. So if you have any questions or if there's anything we need to wordsmith, we can do that moving forward. So any policy committee and or myself, if you've got any feedback for that particular.
So one of the things that didn't get picked up when it was typed out, if you go to K.
Yep.
It is understood that staff members in their school, it goes, that needs to be brought up there right before that colon as another sentence. So that, because that's what we decided on, that would be with, not only with K, but for all of these things. And it should apply to, and this apply, at the end, it should say, this applies through H through L. Remember we talked about that?
Okay.
So the thing that's underlined is going to be moved up to where the semicolon is,
Where it says as appropriate, right?
right? And then
Okay,
that's
got
going to
it.
be a new sentence. And then at the end of that, this applies to items H through L.
Yeah.
That we talked about.
Got it.
K through L. Remember we talked about that?
Yep.
So that's it.
My
So
notes
that
are all
all the
over
board
place,
members
so I
understand.
apologize.
That's just something that was brought up when we had our meeting and just got in the wrong place. That's all.
All right, we will do that.
So we're going to move on. I turned the page and I shouldn't have done that. The next item on the agenda. Lost my agenda. Can you believe that? I just had it here. Anyway, is that approval of the minutes? So
I move to approve the minutes of April 15th, 2020.
Second.
Alex,
any discussion? Roll call vote.
all righty. Kim,
Approved.
Wendy,
Approved.
Kathy,
Approve.
Melissa,
Abstain.
Alex,
Approve.
Patty,
Approved.
Rebecca, Betty,
Approve.
Sean,
Approved.
Gary,
Approved.
and David's not here, so 9 approved and 1 abstained.
Yep, it's accepted. Acceptance of donations.
I move to
Wendy?
accept the donations.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have something. I feel like maybe a decimal point is missing for the Maranacook Education Foundation. I'm assuming they did not donate $36,000. I mean, I could be wrong and that would be awesome, but I imagine it's $361.
Thank you on that.
Hang on just a sec, we're checking on that.
People are donating to the
Or is it 3,600?
So is it? So 36,100? Yeah, that's what the question is. Yeah, there's no decimal point or comma or anything. So I'm guessing it should be probably $3,610. So the educational donation is $3,610. And we will make that amendment. Thank you. That's a very good catch. And I will confirm that, but I believe it should be $3,610, but we'll confirm tomorrow morning just to be sure. Good catch.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Kim,
I approve and am very grateful.
Wendy,
I approve.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa, Alex,
Approve.
Patty,
Approve.
Rebecca,
Oh.
Betty,
Approve.
Sean,
Approved.
Gary.
Approved.
So the motion passes unanimously.
Jay, on mine, I believe you can barely see it, but right next to the one is a period that's higher than it is.
Oh,
Right under-
okay.
If you look real close
Oh,
on the
yes.
printed, you see the little period in there?
Yep, I do. I'll confirm
it's-
tomorrow morning and I'll let you guys know what it is, but yeah.
I thought,
can
I
see
read it
that
as
now.
$361.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Moving
move-
on.
I move to accept the teacher resignation effective June 30th, 2020. MCHS Jude Levasseur with regret.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to
Roll
have
call.
some discussion on that one.
Go ahead.
How many total math teachers do we have at the high school?
We this year had 5 math teachers.
Okay, so in the last month, we have basically lost almost half of that department. At what point are we concerned?
So we had earlier in the year, Mike Boyman retired. So his resignation came through as a retirement. And then this particular individual as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
There are-
I come from a family of teachers, and yes, obviously there are people who retire because they retire, but in some cases it's also because, you know, they get to a point where they just can't do it anymore and may not have retired under different circumstances. And I just wonder if with 2 resignations or a retirement and a resignation in such a short period of time, at what point, I mean, with teachers being at a premium, especially good teachers, with these 2 particular teachers, they have a wonderful reputation. My daughter has had one of them, and she spoke very highly. So I'm concerned.
yeah, and that's fair. And we always do exit interviews with our teachers, and we use that information to try to make smart decisions and plot a course going forward that's going to be beneficial to our students. So it is, it's not something we take lightly, that's for sure.
I mean, it's almost half, and 2 very experienced teachers, one with I don't know, 30 plus years of experience and one with 17 years of experience. That's pretty hard to replace.
Yes, it is.
Especially since they got such rave reviews. So Jay, I'd like to talk to you about that further if we could, please.
Okay, absolutely. Okay to do a vote?
What are my choices when we vote? Can I not accept? Is that like, what's
Well,
Okay, no.
I don't want to accept his resignation.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
more information. What do I do? What are my choices? Since
So
I'm first.
your choices are still yes, no, and abstain, but I have to be very frank in saying that we've accepted his resignation at this point. So this is more, and I hate to make it sound so superficial, but it's very much a cursory thing to share with the board. So you can vote no, but it's probably not going to change anything, just so you know.
That's
Fair
fine.
question. All right, so Kim, you're up first.
I'm a no. I want him back.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes, with regret.
Rebecca,
Yes.
excuse me, Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
All right, so it's 9 yes and 1 no. So it does pass.
Okay, Wendy.
I move to accept the teacher resignation effective June 30th, 2020, MES, Linda Perry, with regret.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kim,
Abstain.
okay, hold on. There we go. Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
So 9 yeses and 1 abstention, so motion passes.
I move
ahead,
to,
Vic.
I move to accept the teacher resignation effective June 30th, 2020, MCMS, Amy Jones, with regret.
Second.
Any discussion?
I
Roll
don't like
call.
it.
Kim,
I don't like it, but I'll abstain.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So that's 9 yeses and 1 abstention, so motion passes.
All right, I move to appoint the second probationary contract teachers.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I just be the newbie here?
Yes.
Can you just clarify what all this means for me? Just give me a quick
Yes.
little overview of what all this is,
Yeah.
since it's my first time.
Yep. So whenever a teacher is hired, they have the current cycle we're still in is 3 years as a probationary teacher before they are offered a continuing contract. And a continuing contract simply means that it keeps rolling over year to year. So what we have to do is bring forth those that are going from first year to second year, then second year to third year, and then third year into the continuing contract. So it's kind of a check and balance moving forward, so the board knows kind of what the status of our staff is. So that's why you're seeing these 3 particular, there are going to be 3 motions made. Does that kind of answer your question, Kim? I don't know.
It does. I think it goes in a weird order to go from second to third back to first, as far as our list.
The third one is going to be teachers that are leaving their 3rd year probation and going into their continuing contract. So that's why it looks first again, like it's first again, but you're moving from one kind of track to another track. That's
You're
a good question. I'm
permanent
glad you asked.
employee.
After the third, so the teachers on this list for third probationary contract are going into a full-on contract?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
okay. All set for
Any
roll call
further
vote?
discussion? Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So that is unanimous. It is passed.
I move to appoint the third probationary contract teachers.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously. We're on to H.
I move to appoint the first continuing contract teachers.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Jay.
Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously. You are on to H, excuse me, I, right?
Yes.
No, so we're on I. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Nancy Harriman, who is going to introduce the people who are here, and they will get started with a presentation for you about the Maranacook Alternative Program. Nancy?
Thank you. So we are really fortunate tonight to have with us Kelsey Bickford, and who's sort of the lead teacher in the alternative program at the high school, and Hannah Moran, who is English learning leader and has worked really hard on this program proposal. And also Cora Soul is sitting in on our meeting tonight. She is a consultant for the Center for Rural Aspiration, and through our Title II money, we've been able to have her help work with the staff to try to figure out what curriculum and programs changes might best help Maranacook students who really need a multiple pathways approach, something different in their curriculum and education. So they've put together a nice presentation for you to explain both the changes in the program and the new curriculum for this coming year that they would like to have approved.
So you showing us a video or they hear?
Yes, I think Diane.
I'm queuing it up. I'm queuing it up. Just one
Diane's
moment.
queuing it up, but I just wanted to say that I asked them and they did a great job. Instead of just doing more like the PowerPoint and the documents, they did voiceovers on a slideshow so that in case we have any connectivity problems, it will be posted with the minutes too, hopefully, so that people can see it after if they had problems with any parts of it tonight. Okay.
And I'm gonna try and play that video now.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present our program and curricula with you today. I know both Hannah and I are really excited for this moment. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this over the past couple of years, and tonight very much feels like a turning point for our program. We'd like to thank Nancy for all her guidance along the way, as well as Cora from Rural Aspirations, who is on this call as well. So let's get started. Hi there. We just wanted to take a second to introduce ourselves and give you a picture, a face to the name. So my name is Kelsey Bickford. I teach the STEM classes, and I'm also the program director. I also want to take a second, he's not featured in this quick little video, but we also have an ed tech in our program who means the world to us, and we can't even begin to tell you the amazing things he does for us and our students, and his name is Brad Blasius.
Hi, I'm Hannah Moran, and I have been teaching English with the MAP program for the last 3 years, and next year I'll be transitioning to teaching a hybrid humanities class, so I'm really excited to do that.
So leading up to tonight, we've had several meetings with the curriculum committee. Our curricula that we're presenting tonight has been approved in concept, but tonight is the night that hopefully the board will approve it in full, so that we can move forward in the fall with actually implementing this amazing curriculum that we're super excited to share with you.
All right, so hopefully by now you have a pretty good idea of what MAP is. It's the Maranacook Alternative Program. Our program is designed specifically for students who find difficulty learning in a traditional classroom. And we pride ourselves on being sort of more individualized, both in course content and pace. The MAP program is a place to learn in a more relaxed and supportive environment. It's a chance to learn how to build community, working positively and productively well with others. And it's a way to challenge oneself. There are a couple of changes to our program that I want to address today. One major change is we are transitioning from 5 staff members to 3 staff members. Another change is we will no longer be offering freshman transitions. MAP time, or what was previously referred to as MAP time, is now our lead course, and we'll go into that in a little more detail later. It has a full curriculum and is responsive to student needs. Additionally, we'll be using various baseline assessments to inform growth plans for all MAP students. These will be called PLP, or Personal Learning Plans. And we are now looking at presenting a comprehensive 3-year humanities curriculum, which has been designed, which will be a collaborative, interdisciplinary curriculum using social studies and English standards.
There were a few things we wanted to highlight from our handbook that you received in your board packet. So the first is our mission, which if you don't mind, I'll read to you right now. The Maranacook Alternative Program guides alternative learners toward graduation with a creatively individualized educational environment. Academic and 21st century skills are fostered through experiential, community-based learning challenges. We aim to develop within our students a strong sense of respect for self, others, and community. Students foster independence and responsibility by working through effective problem solving and group processing strategies. Most importantly, students gain a deeper understanding of themselves as lifelong learners. So that's something that has definitely guided our work through this and continues to guide our program as we work with these incredible students. Another part I wanted to point out is our interdisciplinary academic time. We're going to be going into more depth with that, but that is our humanities curriculum, which will be taught by Hannah, and also our STEM curriculum, which will be taught by me. So the humanities curriculum is a combination of our English and social studies curriculum that already exists at the high school, but kind of given some new context, the same standards, but a really well integrated program that is much more alternative for our alternative learners. The STEM program, the science pieces are integrated, so like bio and chemistry are together, earth and bio are together, things like that. intended to be secular. That being said, it is self-paced, so students are working in whatever math suits them at that time based on where they are in their PLP. Speaking of PLPs, Hannah mentioned those previously. These are personalized learning plans. Students start building these once they are accepted into the program. They help guide both their graduation plan, their post-secondary plans, and even some personal goals they might have. It's kind of a piece that kind of links everything together for us and our students. We're really excited about our LEAD curriculum. We're going to go in depth with this again later on. LEAD stands for Leadership, Exploration, Awareness, and Development. This is a program that's super focused on our students' social and emotional needs and kind of guiding them to understand who they are and kind of where they fit in with everything going on around them and how they can best serve our community or any community they choose to be a part of. Lastly, I just want to point out we do have an application process, so this program is not a guarantee for Maranacook students. They really have to prove that they want to be there and continue to prove that. And so there's, as well as having an application process, there's also a dismissal process. We haven't had to use our dismissal process yet, but we did outline one. It's a series of meetings, probations, things like that. Students would definitely know it was coming before they were asked to leave our program. We hope we don't get to this point, but we feel like having a dismissal process and dismissing a student is very important to maintaining the integrity of our program for the students who really need it and benefit from it. Our application process is fairly simple. A referral can be completed by anyone, a student, an adult in the building, a parent, family member, anything like that. There's an initial interview that's basically a get to know you, kind of find out who the student is, why they're thinking they want to join, that sort of thing. They get to know me and other members of the MAP staff as well. Those are completed with a guidance counselor. And then the last piece is a second interview where we ask students to complete a task where they can kind of take it in any direction they want, do a hands-on project, verbal presentation, anything like that, just to kind of show us why they want to be there.
So as we've mentioned earlier, we have presented various sort of iterations of these curricula to the curriculum committee, and we are now here to present them for full board approval. The three different curriculums we are going to be presenting today are going to be the Humanities Curriculum, the STEAM Curriculum, and then the LEAD curriculum, which is Leadership, Exploration, Awareness, and Development. And so those are our three program components that we are asking you to look at today.
This is just a sample of what a student's schedule might look like. The number one thing we wanted to point out with this is that all courses are in the afternoon. We also thought it was important to point out that humanities and STEM are meeting every day. We think that's really valuable to be able to see our students every day, as attendance can sometimes be an issue, and gauging where students at is going to be way easier if we see them every time they're in the building. Also in there, you'll see a big block on Wednesday that says LEAD. That's our LEAD curriculum. It's not a for sure thing that LEAD will be every Wednesday for 2 periods. We would like to build in like a designated time. However, our LEAD curriculum is also going to be very fluid. Like Hannah mentioned, the LEAD curriculum is built to be responsive to needs. So if something is going on within our MAP community that needs to be addressed that relates to our LEAD curriculum, Hannah and I have the ability to carve out time in another period to address that and give those students that opportunity to experience that and learn with that as it's happening. Also, having all of our math classes in the afternoon allows for our students to take other courses that are offered at Maranacook Community High School and also take CATSE courses that are happening at Coney, as well as maybe do a work study or have some sort of modified schedule if they've worked that out with the powers that be. Now I'm going to take a minute just to outline our STEM curriculum. Again, STEM, if you're not familiar, stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So this is the time where our students will be engaging in their science and their math. Like I mentioned before, I would have loved to have created a curriculum that integrated these seamlessly, but given the math standards that we are working with at this time at the high school, they don't really lend themselves to the science curriculum very well. So for now, we've kept them separate. I outlined here 4 of the algebra units that are part of our Algebra 1 curriculum. That being said, students will be working on different math curricula at different times. So we have freshmen in our program, we have juniors in our program. They might be working on different math at the same time in my room. So this is when we will be utilizing the workshop model. I'm very familiar with it. I love it. So I'm excited and confident that I and my students can be successful with this. The Algebra 1 curriculum, Geometry curriculum, and Algebra 2 curriculum is all from the same standards that the high school is using. I highlighted the priority standards that were identified by the math department and really honed in on those to give our students a strong math experience. The science curriculum will be all students engaging in the same curriculum at the same time, whether they're a freshman or a junior. This is why we've created a 3-year sequence, and today we're just outlining the year 1 for you. Next year, we'll be back with year 2, and after that, year 3, and then hopefully we can come back to year 1 and cycle through again. So the first year of science is a combination of biology and earth systems. So I took both of the standards from those courses and worked with Cora and Nancy to fit them together in a way that created a really holistic and alternative curriculum for our students. We've broken it into 4 units. There's Foundations of Life, our environment, us within our world, and ending with an agriculture project. So students, as they're learning about the world we live in, the earth, plate tectonics, all of that, they're also learning about what's inside of them. We have a human systems body project and kind of how all of those work together, how they impact their world and how their world impacts them. So I'm super excited to teach this, and I hope our students are as well. There are a couple pieces I wanted to highlight from our STEM curriculum. The first is, as I just mentioned, the Human Body Systems project. So each student will be assigned, or they'll get to pick, I haven't worked that out yet, we'll see how they feel, a human body system. So this could be the skeletal system, the lymphatic system, the respiratory system, any of those, and they'll have to build, as they're learning about it, some sort of visual representation as well as an audio representation. So some students might choose to do something like Hannah and I are doing now with a PowerPoint and a pre-recording. Some students might build something and do an on-the-spot verbal presentation, or some students might do some combination of all of that. Someone will do a skit. I don't know. So that's really where that alternative piece comes in. And I would love for us to be able to share that with someone. You've talked about maybe going down in the middle school and presenting it to the Sebago team, but we'll see. But hopefully our students will get to share that learning with the community. I also wanted to point out the agricultural project that I mentioned that was the 4th unit of our science curriculum. This is going to be a yearly project. So MAP has had an existing relationship with the school garden. It's not totally thriving, I would say, but many of our students have put energy into it and would like to see it grow. In the past, we have provided vegetables for the kitchen, and we would like to do that more. So making the agriculture project a part of our yearly curriculum provides us some consistency year after year for the students to revisit this and really think about how they can have an impact on our school garden, which again has an impact on our community. And I just want to point out the little quote there that I just think really embodies what I'm trying to get at. And there are 2 components that are fundamental to enjoy life and feel good about yourself: continual learning and service. So I feel like this program, I might sum up the whole program, but definitely this agriculture project that we're excited to engage in.
For our humanities curriculum, one of the things that we did is try to take the social studies standards, which are in a lot of ways very content driven, and then take sort of the English standards, which are very sort of skills driven, and create a hybrid way of looking at history through an English language arts lens. And so for our first year of studies, we'll be focusing on what it means to be an American. We've narrowed that down to 4 units. First being rebellion and revolution, the second being multiple perspectives, the third being social reforms, and the fourth being power and corruption. And so these thematic units will allow us to look at history, but many of the assessments, both formative and summative, will be some sort of hybrid of social studies and English standards. 2 things I would like to highlight with our humanities curriculum is first, the creation of an interactive timeline. Over the course of the year, students will be adding to a timeline that will be in our classroom, and it will become a very sort of multi-sensory experience for them, and we can kind of follow that throughout the year. Similarly, our students will spend the year building, I'm calling it a museum of who else, where at the end of each unit, I'm asking them to do a bit of independent research on somebody they feel like was sort of left out of history, somebody who didn't have a place at the table yet. And in doing that research, they'll be able to do some sort of presentation. As Kelsey mentioned, that'll probably look really different from all of our students, and then they will be creating some sort of artifact to put in the museum. And so these are 2 really sort of interactive elements that I'm very excited about, that kind of allow us to be creative and really meet our students where they are. A quote I'd like to share a little bit, just to kind of, I think, embodies what we're trying to do here with this melding of English and social studies, is by Henry David Thoreau, and it says, "Books are the carriers of civilization. Without books, history is silent." And so really having our students focus on who is telling the story, and who gets to sort of be that custodian of knowledge or of history is really, really important to us. And I think projects like the interactive timeline and museum will allow us to do that.
Now we get to share our lead curriculum. This is a curriculum that, I don't know about Hannah, but I'm super excited about this curriculum. I mean, I know Hannah's excited, but
I'm excited.
I might be more excited about this, even more so than the STEM curriculum, which is crazy because I'm also excited about that. So as I mentioned early on, this lead curriculum, LEAD, stands for Leadership, Exploration, Awareness, and Development. And this is really where we're trying to get at the core of what we're trying to give these alternative learners. It's meant to be responsive, which made it super challenging to create a curriculum. I have our units listed here: the individual, the community, the individual in the community. Unlike the other curriculum that we just presented, these don't happen in order. They're kind of all happening throughout the year, which is kind of insane, but it's going to be amazing. So the individual, this is really where we let our students explore who they are. They get to do a lot of self-reflection. We have a lot of activities that help students identify traits that they have, who they are as a learner, as a leader, how do they handle conflict, all of that. Then we have one, the community. How do I contribute to my community? It's important to give back to your community and find your role, no matter how big or how small it might be. We know that in order for our students to feel successful and to be successful, they need to learn where their place is and find value in that, and really see that they are contributing members to our existing community now and will continue to be once they leave our school. The last one is the individual in the community, which really kind of syncs both of those together. This is where we're exploring, what am I going to do with my life? It says there, how do I become my best self? What's going to make me happy? What gifts do I have to share with my community? So this is where we're going to do a lot of career inventory. We would like to do more job shadows, all sorts of things like that, so our students can find kind of where those 2 things meet, where who they are meets where they are in their community and how they see themselves.
A couple of highlights with the LEAD curriculum. As Kelsey mentioned, this curriculum is highly responsive. It's highly in tune with student needs, interests, and talents. It really allows us to create instruction around the needs of our students in a way that oftentimes we don't feel like we are able to do. A huge part of this is going to be those personalized learning plans that students and teachers and parents and administrators and various other individuals in the school will be adding to, just to students understand where they are and what those strengths are and what are some of those areas that they might need a little support. And so it's so important for our students to be thinking that way. And so I'm very excited that that's such sort of a hallmark of this program. Another thing that's so exciting is it gives us as educators the flexibility to kind of integrate with other courses and other things that our students are learning on, and kind of add that level of dimensionality and relevance in terms of what we're looking at with sort of these cross-cutting concepts in our curriculums. And lastly, something as an English teacher I'm very excited about is ways that we can integrate a lot of ELA standards, both reading and writing, as sort of catalysts to have a lot of these conversations and to allow our students to do some of this personal growth. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear us out, and hopefully we are able to share some of our passion for this program and excitement about what we've put together. And at this point, if you have questions, we'd like to open the floor.
I have a question. And the first question I have is, Jay has set 10 as the normal goal. Do you intend to have at least 10 students?
Hey, Gary, I kind of have a follow-up on that. So is the capacity 10 students or is the goal 10 students?
So Hannah, I don't know if you're comfortable being able to answer those questions.
I can answer the questions in terms of, we do not currently have 10 students in the program. I think our hope is that we will continue to grow the program. And so obviously if there are more than 10 students that are the right fit for our program, they will be opened with welcome arms. I don't know if that answers the question. I think the follow-up question, probably Jay, was more to you in terms of the capacity.
I am very impressed with the curriculum that you have worked. It's apparent that you have worked very hard, and that work really shows. So thank you.
Kelsey, do you want to add anything into the question about the size of the program?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I think when Hannah and I were asked this at the curriculum committee, I think I personally reported I don't think I'd want more than 15 in the program at this point, just the way we're built. Of course, I'd love to have like a really big program like Bonnie Eagle, but right now we're not really built to be that way in the one small room we have, and just the one period for all of our students. If that opened up, I think we'd be open to more students, but right now I think 10 would be a great number, just given that our students are high needs and need some of that one-on-one when possible. Right now we're at 8. I suspect they're all returning, and I know of one who has applied from the 8th grade, so that would put us at 9.
Cool. I like the program overall because you hit all the areas, and it also takes care of algebra 2, which is required in business. Any further comments?
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we accept the math curriculum as presented.
Second.
That was Patty.
Any further discussion? Oh, Jay, up to you.
Okay. Kim.
I had the privilege of hearing this through the curriculum committee, and it looks awesome. Good job. And yes.
Wendy.
Yes.
Kathy.
Absolutely, it's wonderful.
Melissa.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Patty.
Yes.
Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca's still here? Did we
Yep,
lose
I
her?
said yes.
Oh, there she is. Betty?
Yes, and with great appreciation for all the work.
Sean?
Yes, and I just want to say thank you. I thought it was great, and hopefully that all students who want to participate are able to.
Thank you. And Gary?
I say yes.
All right, so motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all so much. It means a lot to us and our students. I could cry right now. But it just, Hannah and I are really excited, and it feels really great to have your support. And thank you again, Nancy and Cora, for your support along the way.
Your enthusiasm is very apparent, so thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, next item. Consideration of alternative school calendar. So Jay, I thought we were going to June 13th or something.
Yeah, so our original date, if you look at storm days and everything like that, if we had used all our storm days, it would actually have taken us to Friday, June 17th, June 19th. I didn't put that on the paper, I apologize. So in talking with some of the other area schools as to where they're going with this and what they're doing, one of the things that that I thought kind of drove this, at least to a certain degree, was the fact that Augusta will be closing CATC on June 5th. So that would mean that those students that are in the CATC program won't have access even if we were to go a little bit longer. So that was one of the factors that went into this. The other factor was the idea that what I've been hearing is that this is getting difficult for parents and teachers, and they really needed to know, like, when is this going to end and what's a reasonable end date given our current circumstances. And knowing that the state is going to waive days because we do have a remote learning plan that's been approved by you guys. Actually, twice you guys approved it. So I tried to balance everything out, and I did work with it's important to note that I did work with the association in having conversations around what the end of school might look like. So that's why I'm suggesting the June 5th be the end of instruction for students. So they wouldn't be getting any new work, but we still would have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. That would allow teachers and students the ability to, on a rotation, get into classrooms, collect stuff, personal items, etc. The middle school, high school needs to have their laptops picked up for various reasons. We also have an opportunity during those 3 days to allow students to finish any outstanding work, and it gives teachers a chance to connect with students one more time, and that kind of thing. So when you look at that, the waiver that we'll be asking for is 14 total student days, and we would use 2 extra days, Thursday and Friday, the 11th and 12th, as professional development days that would be planned with the building principals in association, with the association and teacher leadership for those days, with a focus on what is the fall going to look like. And we may actually need even more time than that, but it would meet the requirements of the way I calculated it out, it would meet the requirements for the number of student days as well as the number of teacher workshop days going through. And again, the waiver from the state would account for those 14 days. 9 of those were in March, and then we did use 5 storm days. So that's where the number came from. And I just thought you guys need to approve that, and we probably need to have a discussion further around it. But the guidance that I got from the state was to make sure that you looked, what are other areas schools doing, and what are, do it in conjunction with your associations so that it's a collaborative effort that's being brought forth to you guys as board members. And I do know Winthrop is looking at the 5th. RSU 2 is looking at the 5th. I may be wrong, but I believe Augusta's already approved the 5th. So it just seemed natural that we kind of fit in with that. We're actually going later than some other school systems. There are several school systems that are actually getting done right at the end, either right after, is it Labor Day? Memorial Day. I always get the two mixed up. Could never figure that out as a kid. But they're actually finishing right around that, and they're doing a lot of teacher workshop days. And I just think we're in a much different place in terms of remote learning. So I'd rather kind of be smart and strategic about how we're doing this and not overwhelm teachers with professional development days for 5 or 6 days straight. I just don't think that's reasonable from where I sit. But again, we're in a different place than a lot of other districts were when it came to remote learning.
So you're going to end instructions on the 5th, but the actual, what you're asking for is the actual close to be on 6/10.
Yes, for students, and then the staff would be 6/12. Yep.
Okay.
The staff will have 2 extra days.
I move to approve the alternative school calendar for remainder of 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just didn't know if this would be a good time to talk about what Mr. Harper was talking about at the start with giving teachers an opportunity for, it sounds like there's some additional planning for the potential of the fall, but if this is a good time to discuss what those options might be for teachers looking to next year, if that ends up being unfortunately necessary.
I think that's, yeah, but I think that's the next. Can we just push that off just a second? We'll do that immediately following this so that we know when we're going to start. I think that's a better way to go, Kim. Because this here deals with the end of school. And you're asking for the beginning. Am I right?
I mean, technically I'm asking for the summer, like Mr. Harper was talking about. I don't know what a teacher's calendar technically is when one contract ends and a new one begins. Okay. So I guess I don't really know the answer, seeing that the original end date of school was the 19th, or should have been.
Answer the question, Jay.
Yep. So that's a great question, Kim. So most contracts run from September to August. So if we wanted to bring teachers back to do some other work, it would involve extra time at this point that we would have to compensate them for per their contract. But I will kind of throw out that we have, there's a COVID-19 funds that are coming through. We don't know all the details yet, but one of the things that I thought, once we kind of have a better handle of what's going on, that we would probably look at the potential for bringing in teachers for an extra day or two, either in July or August, where we could plan for those days, and we could use some of that money that we're getting through this relief fund to be able to pay for those days. So it's kind of in the works. We just got to kind of work out the kinks and make sure the money is available coming forward. But we all have talked about that at the administrative team level. A lot of really important pieces were brought up about what are we doing moving forward in the fall if we can't start kind of as normal, which honestly is kind of looking more and more like that's going to be the case. So we still do have work to do, but that's why I thought working with the principals too for those last 2 days that fulfill the teacher work days would be really important, because we want to make sure it's really valuable going into the fall moving forward. So
is 1 or is 1 or 2 days in August enough? I mean, if good gracious, everyone, poor everyone. I feel terrible for everyone going through it all, the students, the teachers, the parents, everybody. Right. So is compensating them to have to add time for just 1 or 2 days going to be enough for them, or do we think what's their thought on all this?
So like I said, this has been discussed with the association, and that's one of the things that we are waiting to see what the money looks like. Then we'll have to put a plan together for that money. That's all kind of in the works. And again, you'll have some teachers that'll be chomping at the bit almost on, like I'll say June 24, they'll be ready to come back and start planning for next year. And you'll have others that very much so, and rightfully so, will need a break. So that's why we're kind of looking at what can we do, how much time will we actually need, but we'll do that collaboratively with the teachers. Obviously will have a voice in that moving forward. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty right now, so I can't say it's only 1 or 2 days, because that's a really good point. It could very much well be we need 3 or 4 days, but I think we have to kind of get through the uncertain part to be able to plan that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I were them, I would need a big break too. But I also know that we have an amazing group of teachers who do, if they have access to a building, end up there all stinking summer. And so if we can compensate them because of all the extra work that they're doing, if that's possible, I'm all for it.
Yep. Yep.
Have we, I don't know what your discussions with parents have been. For some parents, especially if they're working from home as well, school does add some structure to the day that they won't have once school is over. It also adds stress. So I don't know where you balance those two things, how you balance those two things. So I guess my question is, what have you done to talk to parents to get their input into this?
That's a very good question. I'll be very honest in saying I have not reached out to parent groups in particular about this. All that I'm working on is various pieces of information that have been shared with me. Principals have more contact with parents about what the home situations look like and stuff. So that's kind of where I got my information, but I haven't personally reached out to parents directly.
I just want, sorry, Betty, go ahead.
You know, that's okay. While you talk, I'll get my thoughts closer together.
Mine was more along the line of what Kim was talking about. I mean, not just about school starting up in the fall, but I was on a Zoom meeting yesterday, maybe earlier today. They all blend together. But talking about how it may be quicker, you know, in the future, the new norm may be quicker for schools to close during a pandemic, and having communication about having it so we can quickly turn to Google Classroom or you know, other types of technologies that we're doing, so that lessons, I know it's more work for the teachers, but this may be the new norm, is what the department and folks were talking about on this Zoom meeting. So yeah, I think some of that needs to be included in the planning day.
Yeah, absolutely. There's kind of 3 things that I'm looking, I'll share with the board since we're on this discussion. There's kind of 3, there's 4, but there's 3 things primary that I'm kind of looking at right now. One is just making sure students' basic needs get met. We've, I think, been doing that through the course of an emergency situation. The next thing is we do need to have more discussions around connectivity, not just at middle and high school, but also for elementary students. I think that's absolutely something we're going to have to look at. And I think Sean's referencing, you know, kind of the new normal. We need to address that. And we've started that, but we have more work to do around it for sure. The next thing is social emotional health, because this has taken a pretty good toll, not, you know, on students, but also on our staff as well. So I really do think we're going to have to look at upping supports, not just for students, but for staff as a whole. And I think based on a lot of what I see in the news right now, it's a lot of gloom and doom, and children are hearing this, and I think we are going to have fallout from that in the fall without a doubt. So I think that's something else we need to address in this planning. And then obviously the last thing is the academics. What are we going to do to help students recover academically? How are we going to make sure that there's opportunities for students to move forward? So that's kind of my pronged approach right now. but there is a lot of work to do to kind of get to the point where I can share a lot of information. But that, and I really think that's why the teachers need to be involved in the collaborating of what those last 2 PD days would look like, because they have boots on the ground that I don't have, and even the principals don't necessarily totally have. So that's going to be a really important piece going forward. So.
Thank you.
How about starting the new school year a week earlier to
That is
go
an
over
option.
last year's?
Yes, that is an option. There is talk about doing that for sure. So it sounds kind of comical, but it's actually out there. That is could potentially be an option.
Well, I think it's something that should be considered.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a big space of time,
Yeah.
which nobody's around.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor.
Yep.
There have
Is it
also been
second?
there have been a lot of people over time that have, look, not that I want this, so don't misinterpret, but that have said having more breaks, a couple weeks at a time, and the school year, lasting the whole year, I can't even imagine, but that's not being considered, right?
Not at this point, but it's definitely another option. It is being talked about in other places.
Okay.
All right.
So we have a motion on the floor to accept this new norm for this year. Go ahead, Jay.
All righty.
Roll.
Kim,
I'm a yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty. Oh, I think you're muted, Patty.
Sorry. Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
A hesitant yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So motion passes unanimously. Just so the board members note, I will get something out to parents so that they are aware of this tomorrow morning. And if I get any feedback, I absolutely will share that with the board. So.
Just as you know, David Twitchell just arrived.
Oh, David, nice.
So I say yes also.
There you go. Awesome.
Jay,
Yes.
I think it would be important to somehow reach out to families, to students, to parents, and to the teachers to find out what it is, if this is the new norm, what is it that we did great?
Yep.
What is it that they needed more support with? How could we support them? And I mean, and that everyone, how could we support you better? How could we support the teachers better? How could we support students better? How could we support parents better in this? And I don't know if it's making lots of phone calls, if it's doing a survey, but I think it would be really important to, at some point, reach out to all these groups and find out, kind of summarize this experience.
Absolutely. Yes.
Will be done.
Will be done.
Jay's right on it.
Thank you. Thank you. I just
Okay.
think it would be great for learning.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely. We will do that.
Okay, Wendy.
I move to accept the teacher resignation effective June 30th, 2020 due to retirement, RES Pamela Mitchell, with regret.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Jay, roll call.
Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty.
Yes, but I'm super sad. Both my kids had Pam Mitchell and she set them up for awesome experiences in our school district, and I'm really sad.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty?
Yes, with regret, I hired her.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
So it does pass unanimously.
Wendy,
I move to accept the teacher resignation effective June 30th, 2020, MCN with regret.
Second.
any discussion? Go ahead, Jay, with a roll call.
Kim,
I'm still abstaining. I don't like all these resignations.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes, and I also don't like all these resignations.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes?
and David.
Yes.
So that is, if I'm counting right, 10 yeses and 1 abstention, but it does pass.
So just before we go on, Patty, I see that June 14th. Does that meet, is that going good for you or not?
Oh, well, it's not me, it's the students.
I understand that. I asked the question, is it going, have you heard any bad things?
I have not heard any bad things.
Okay, that's well.
I know
want to
that they're in process of working on it and trying to make it the best that it can
Somewhat
be.
do.
Yeah.
And I
I
have
think
asked,
by maybe June, they can have the whole auditorium.
yeah,
We won't need all this problem.
would be great if that would happen. Dr. Conway is planning on giving a full rundown on what graduation will look like at the May 20th meeting. So that way you guys will have info, and if we can get information out sooner, we certainly will. Like Patty just said, there's been a couple of meetings this week and I think decisions have been made and stuff. So now it's a matter of ironing out the little details and such, but we're definitely on track and Dr. Conway will present May 20th.
Okay, information items was just strictly curriculum facilities meeting.
Yes.
And the health center, and we have a ad hoc, Awesome Bears.
Yep. And they're all going to be done via Zoom through the month of May, just so people know.
So now we're up to budget workshop.
Yep.
Updates.
All right. So you did receive an email with the latest kind of changes to the budget. We looked at, just so that you guys have a basic understanding, from the last version you saw, we were able to cut a little over $183,000. A lot of it had, I'll say a lot of it came out of maintenance. We sat down with Sean and took a really hard look at what was priority and what was not. Sean Drinkwater, I apologize. We also looked at the propane contract, came in with a fairly substantial savings. There is some adjustments due to the resignations that you guys all voted on. So there is some kind of budgetary things around staffing with that, as well as a few kind of odds and ends of other things that we whittled down just to kind of bring things as close as we could. So when you're looking at the very first page, the general fund summary, you'll see that our increase or change is still up $321,344.88, which is going to amount to a 1.73 increase. And you can see kind of the breakdown there going across to the schools. Once you go to the second page, which looks at the revenue areas, And again, I'm going through this very quickly, and I fully expect we'll be discussing a little bit more as we go through. But if you go down to additional local dollars, that's kind of the really important one. It's very close to the bottom of the page. You'll see in parentheses $899,092. That is actually a reduction across the 4 municipalities for the school. So we're actually whittling down and asking for less money from the towns going into next year. So that's kind of that total number that you're looking at going forward. So again, if you're looking revenue balancing with expenditure side, you can see we're still up that $321,343 there. And then of course, the third page is the breakdown by towns. Again, based on that formula, 50% evaluation, 50% student count. And remember that student count is pre-K through 12, or I should say K through 12. So when you're looking at that, please be aware that you're counting, for example, all of your Reed Field students in that count. It's not broken down in this particular one by school there, but you can see again, if you go to the local contribution, which is the fourth one up from the bottom, you can see that number that I talked about, that 899,000, and how it's broken up across each town and what the percentage looks like. And again, those are in parentheses because that's less money that we're asking for over the current school year going forward. So, and I'll just kind of throw out that in my first budget presentation to you guys, well before COVID-19 popped up on our radar, my goal was to be at 2% or less, and that's kind of where we are right now. So I really thank the administrators and all of my directors. We had some very hard conversations about this, and Bridget's guidance and what was appropriate to make changes to, and what what was kind of necessary and should go unchanged. So that's kind of where we are right now. I know we're in a much different time than when we started the budget back in February. I kind of hit the mark that I was originally shooting for, but I also know that with COVID-19 and the projections going forward, that we still, have decisions to make. So I'll kind of, with that end there, and let you guys kind of have a discussion around that. And with this discussion, remember what we're shooting for is to be able to have a board vote on May 20th on what we're going to present for a budget, so we can send out to the printers and have ready for our annual meeting in the gym on June 17. So again, May 20th is kind of the magic number, or excuse me, the magic date where we have to make a final decision on what we're going to bring forward to our townspeople. So.
I have a question.
Of course.
Did I even let you finish your sentence?
You're good.
When you said at the I have two questions. One is about, so before you started, right when you started, you said that there were a couple of reasons why we were able to get this lower than previously, and one was about the changes in staff and the resignations.
Yep.
Could you explain that?
Yep.
Does that mean that positions are not being refilled?
We are, yeah, so that's a really good question. So right now, we actually have a few positions we are not filling. We're going about this through attrition. And again, a lot of it revolves around the resignations and retirements that go along with that. So we do have 3 positions. 2 are in Manchester and 1 is up at the high school that we're not going to refill. Then when people leave our district, we typically pay them out in June their full contract, which results in a kind of a savings going forward into next year. And then of course, depending on where we hire people, the more experience you have, the higher up you are on the scale. So depending on where we hire people, there are some positions that we do have to refill. And I'll use like Janet Bertrand's as an example. She's the math interventionist up at the middle school. That position needs to be refilled. Again, we're having discussions around what's going on with math earlier in the year, so that's not a position I'm comfortable saying we're not going to fill. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I'll be very honest in saying Bridget works her magic, and she lets me know where the savings can kind of be going forward there. So I hope that kind of answers the question, Patty.
Yes, definitely. My second question about that, what you said was, I've had several people contact me asking me if our district is saving money because of COVID-19. And I wondered if we are, and if that is part of what the maintenance reductions that have happened since our last meeting.
That is absolutely part of it, because there are some savings. So we're kind of trying to address some immediate needs right now around, like you had said, maintenance, but also there will be money. We're forecasting what we can roll over. So, and again, that's almost a direct savings to the town when we can do that. And Bridget continues to work on the rollover and what that money may look like. Right now, we have it pegged at about 800,000, which is reflected in here. It is possible, but it's also very much something we have to think about going forward in the future. The more we carry over, the more we reduce the local contribution going into next year. But 2 years down the road, that carryover is not going to be there. So we have to be very cautious with that to kind of balance out the immediate needs, but also looking at the future and what that impact could be to the towns in the future if we don't have that rollover. Bridget, did I say that correctly? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, you said it correctly. I mean, we've increased it for next year to 800,000 plus the 92,000 that we got in the unanticipated subsidy for the superintendent's agreements. But that is a very high amount to anticipate that we'll have left over at the end of next year.
Right.
So when you reduce that carry forward, that means you have to make it up someplace, and it's made up in the local dollars. So you have to balance it. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So we discussed. Go ahead, Kim.
Sorry. Can we get clarification, or is it not allowed in terms of what kind of positions? You mentioned positions that are not getting refilled. Is that due to lower enrollment? Can you tell us what those positions are, like, or no?
Yeah, no. So there are 2 elementary positions. I'm not going to get into exactly what it is, but I work with the principal of the school, and it very much revolves around enrollments going forward. There's kind of bubble classes that go through in all schools. So you'll see them kind of bump up. You need an extra teacher, and then you have to shift that teacher over somewhere else. So that's really one of the things that I'm really working towards. And I thank you, Kim, for asking that question, because I really don't want to be looking at reduction in force where we're specifically going out and having to target. That's why attrition right now is kind of, in my mind, the way to go, because we're not going to bump anyone out of a job. I would hate to do that during the current crisis that we're in. That just would not feel right to me. So that's, I'm trying to balance it that way and do most through attrition. But again, there are some positions we are looking at that I feel do need to be replaced, and I have discussions with the principals about that. But we remember at the beginning when I did my budget presentation, one of those discussion points was we have to look very closely at enrollments, whether it's at the elementary, middle, or high school. So.
But those math positions that I'm very upset about are going to get filled.
We, in discussions with Dr. Conway about the structure going into next year, so we are going to refill one of those positions, and we are not going to fill the other one. So that department will go from 5 teachers down to 4 teachers. But that was, again, done in conjunction with Dr. Conway and what the needs of the school are, and what the class sizes look like and such. So.
And how about the reduction that was mentioned from the MAP program where it went from 5 to 2? Are those people who went and took classes elsewhere or attrition or?
That is a good question. I don't know the answer to because that's kind of a scheduling question. I see Nancy's hand pop up. I'll let Nancy answer it. Oh, Nancy, you're muted, just so you know.
Find my own box so I could unmute. The teachers that were teaching in the MAP program until now with the older structure, they were teachers from different departments. So they would just have certain periods where they would do like individualized tutorial. So it doesn't, you know, the departments have them teach, would be having them teach other things instead, but like, yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Other discussion, questions?
So on the bottom of the page, where it says sixth draft preliminary, it says middle school tuition rate. We have 26 students at 10,075 and 23 at 11,272. But I understood that you told me that there was like 100 something individuals, students from other schools. Is that correct or is that wrong?
So a part of that could be resident transfers as well. And then you've got Fayette in that as well. Oh, excuse me, Fayette is included here. I actually expect that number is going to go up going into next year because Maple Tree is closing and that's within our district, and I expect we're going to pick up some students from that. So I actually expect that number to go up a little bit.
So when you pick up these students, what it does is it puts extra taxation on these towns, is what I'm saying to you.
Yep.
So in other words, there's some others, there must be some for the elementary school here that you have also.
Yep.
Or is there any elementary students?
Not for tuition, no.
So, but that only adds up to 49. How do we get up to 100?
Jay, there's probably your superintendent's agreements on top of that.
Yeah.
Which is in the cluster here? Is that what you're saying?
No, superintendent's agreements are students that come from other districts that attend here, but we receive the subsidy for those students. That's where we're getting that additional $92,000 in subsidy this year for. We receive subsidy through the subsidy formula for those students. It's not a tuition from the ascending schools. It's a subsidy through the regular formula.
So how many people do we have on subsidy then?
Donna tracks that list. I don't have that one.
So what I'm looking for, Jay, is the amount of students so I can divide it into the 92.
Yep.
See what the number is.
Oh, am I? Yeah, I am live. Okay. So I don't have, I'll be honest in saying I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's somewhere close to the 58 range right now. Yeah. And the other thing that we have to think about when you're thinking about superintendent agreements, we actually have students that actually leave us and go to other districts. So that kind of washes a little bit. And I did have that at one point today and I just don't have it in front of me right now. Do you mind going to grab it? Donna's going to go grab the sheet. It may take a minute here, but she's going to go grab the sheet so we have the exact numbers.
Well, what I'm saying to you is these kids that we pick up, which is cool that we can do that, increases our staff requirements, but it also increases the allotment that we have to pay as towns.
No, because they're not
come from a different
factored-
district.
Yeah, they're not factored in. We get the money from the state for those kiddos, so they're not factored into the town formula.
That money is totally reduced then?
Right,
What you're
that
saying?
money is like that 93,000 that Bridget was talking about that we got, that comes in from the state to account for those superintendent agreements.
And that 92,000 is in addition to our regular subsidy that we're already receiving for those students.
So the town of Fayette doesn't write you a check for those students that they send?
Fayette is a tuition student. They're not superintendent's agreements. So yes, Fayette does write us checks. For those 49 that are listed there, we do receive tuition payments from Fayette for those. Those are not the ones that are superintendent's agreements.
Okay. And how about the money that we get for IEP? Where's that money at?
Special ed subsidy comes right in through the regular subsidy formula.
Is it covering it at that 16,240 per child?
Well, that 16,240 is not an IEP student. That's
I know, that's the normal student.
the reason Wayne is so high is because your valuations are so high with the way the formula is written. You have low student count and high valuations, and that's what causes the town of Wayne to have to pay more per student.
So the question is should Wayne and Mount Vernon, which are the two, be part of the RSU, or should they be like Fayette?
That's not my decision.
I understand, but if it happened, what would it do to your budget?
Anytime you make a significant change like that, it's going to have an impact, and probably.
Well, it makes a big difference for the town. I mean, if you get by with a lower rate than what you're paying, they look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not being treated fairly.
Right. So that would be like, in order to calculate that, you actually almost need to start the withdrawal process. And that's something that needs to be initiated by the town, not by the school district.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, no, just making sure, because there is a process, once that goes through, there is a process to calculate what is the, what's the cost to the town, what's the cost to the RSU. So that's a whole complicated process that takes several months to work through. And you may get to the end of the line where you say, we're fine right where we are.
So the 432, how many kids do not belong to Reed Field?
That is just Reed Field students.
Gary, there may be one or two Wayne pre-K kids in there, but if you change the number down there, it's also going to change the formula up above, because the percentages up above that I'm using to calculate the 3-year average, that also uses that same number up above. So if you change it down here, you're going to change it up there, and it's probably almost going to wash out.
And you were going to stay at 16,240?
It probably would be close, yes.
Jay, I just look at how many people are out of work and what's happening in the industry, because I just came from one of those type meetings. I don't see it returning to the same. And I think you're going to have to look harder at the budget, because I'm worried that it's not going to pass. That's all I'll say.
Yep. And I absolutely hear that, because I do have a concern around that.
Your employees get full pay no matter what happens because of the contract, and I'm happy for that. But at the same time, you have people that have to pay. I mean, my next door neighbor out of work for 8 weeks now, and no chance of getting a job.
I don't want to be insensitive to any of that, of course, but as far as the budget passing, is it based on the total district or by town?
Total
Total
district.
district.
Okay.
Okay, citizens' comments regarding the budget. Any follow-up deliberations? I hear nothing from anybody. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
All of you
everyone.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Kathy,
Thank you.
Yes.
Kathy, before you go. Kathy, I think she.
Yep.
Oh, I'm moving people.
Jay, I have a question.
No, I'm still-
for you then. Oh,
I'm still here.
oh,
I
okay. Kathy.
Oh, here I am. Whoop. Yeah.
Now that you're back, that means I don't need to be on the curriculum committee? Or do I?
I'm gonna still be on it. It's up that, I guess that's up to you and Jay. I don't know. I'm gonna take my place back though.
Yeah. I just don't want too many people at the meeting when we shouldn't have that many.
Right.
So
So Betty, if it helps at all.
just get back to me
Yeah.
as to what you want me to do.
Yeah, if it helps at all, one of the things I did was when Kathy came back, there was another committee that someone stepped up to. And what I did is still just kept sending the stuff, but they weren't attending the meetings moving forward. So if that's comfortable for you, I'll still continue to send you the agendas and the work that goes in there. And then if you have any comments, you can obviously let me know and I can carry them forward. But we'll kind of still keep you in the loop at least to finish the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking my position though, Betty, while I was gone. I appreciate it.
Well, I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't attend that one meeting. Something came up at the last minute and I wasn't able to attend the one curriculum meeting that I could have, so. I missed the committee. It's a good one.
Thank you again, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Is it too late to ask a question?
Oh, who's
Yeah,
asking
go
the
ahead.
question?
This is Dawn.
Oh, hi, Don.
I just wanted to know the difference in the numbers of students in Manchester, from last year to this year, to last budget to this budget.
Yep. I do not have that in front of me, Dawn, but I will get that information for you and send it out to you tomorrow morning if that works for you.
Is there any, yeah, that'd be great. Is there anything else you can tell me about the reduction in the teachers?
Not much more than that at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.